my favorite curriculum and the second most search term that brings people to my site is this week's curriculum spotlight. Second thing after CLE math that brings people to my site is my very favorite subject that we do, story of the world history. I am a huge fan of this, so I'm very excited to do this one as my spotlight. If you don't know what my spotlights are, they were inspired because when I look for curriculum, I want to be able to open them and talk to someone and find out how they use it. And so that's what I do for you. You can either get the paperback version or there is a digital version. The digital version is $10 from Peace Hill Press's website, or you can get it on Amazon for the Kindle. I think it's $13. I forgot to write that down. The paperback, the least expensive place for the paperback is Amazon, and it ranges $12 to $15 depending on which volume you're getting. They're, you know, Amazon's prices. Then the activity book is optional, but as I'll talk to you about, I don't really think it's optional. I think it's very valuable. The activity book, you can get the digital version for $30, and then I think the paperback version is $45. So that's the prices for it. Grades, she suggests starting Story of the World 1 in first grade, but we started it, my daughter was a little bit older than that. We are, for reference, we're doing volume 4 this year, and then we'll finish it next year, and she'll be a 7th grader next year. So it's really pretty adaptable for multiple ages, which is what I love. One of the things I love about it. All the links for Peace Hill Press's website and the Amazon ones will be below. The Amazon ones will be referral links, so if you want to click through there and purchase through it, I would much appreciate it. Okay, on to the curriculum. Prose. It's so engaging. She has a wonderful story writing ability and a way to make history just come alive, as they say, as the cliche goes. It really is very engaging and very easy to follow. She does a wonderful job with it. It's set up in a 4-year cycle. So volume 1 starts around 6000 BC and goes through the fall of the Roman Empire, and then the next one starts then and goes until the modern age, which I think they define as like early 1300s. I forgot to write it down. And then volume 3 goes from there until 1850s, and then volume 4 from there until modern, or until current times. And it's, as you can tell by the title, Story of the World, it's giving you an overview of what's going on in different parts of the world at the same time, which allows kids and adults personally to be able to connect the way things fit together in a very different way than the way I was ever taught. You know, we would study one area, and then we would study another area, and then we'd study the history of another area. And the way things fit together now, I have a much better grasp of how different things were influencing each other all over the world because of the way Story of the World presents it. And I've been able to make a lot of connections that even though I knew dates, I hadn't made those ties, that realizing that, oh, this influenced this, or this, you know, was going on at the same time as this was wonderful for me. And I think for the kids too, but that's one of the things I love about it, is how much I've learned from this. A couple of cons. Now, I hated to even mention them because I love this one so much, but it is teacher intensive. You can give this to your kid, depending on the reading level, and have them go read it. But to me, what's one of the things I love about it is what comes from the group discussion. The activity book provides questions to go along with it. So we will do those as we go, as we talk, as we read, and just all the discussion that comes with it is one of the most valuable parts to me of Story of the World. We do a lot of rabbit trails and things that we miss out on if the kids went and read this independently. Plus, that would be harder to do as a group. So, so it is teacher intensive. So if that's not something, if you need for history to not be a teacher intensive subject, then this is not going to be a good choice. My other complaint about it is that it is low on American history because she's trying to cover the story of the world in the last 8,000 years in 4 books. There had to be a lot of give and take, and so it is low on American history, which is probably my biggest complaint about it. To kind of solve for that, we took volumes 3 and 4 and spread it out over 3 years so that I could intersperse some additional American history in it. So, we did in like the 1600 time period, in early 1700s, we took a week and did some Native American history. And we've also interspersed that at other points too, but we took a month and did the Revolutionary era. We took a month and did the Civil War and Reconstruction. So it's around that. She doesn't introduce so far very many of the different presidents, so we have done some of that on our own, some extra reading of biographies and such. So if that is something that you really want to cover in those early years intensively, you will want to think about how you can add that in. We use it as a group, so that's one of the really good things about it, is that you can use it with multiple kids. If you're looking for a small co-op class, this is a great one because it would be easy to adapt with multiple families. I know a lot of people who have co-ops for Story of the World, so it's very adaptable for that. One more pro I forgot is that it has a lot of nice activities in it. So if you are an activity person, you can easily add those things in. If you're not an activity person, it's not necessary to do it. I'm not. I hate to admit it. It's like the kind of like the one area of homeschool failures that I'm like, I hate activities, but I do. There's my confession. It also had another pro that I would say is that she includes a lot of really good literature and reading suggestions that aren't necessarily tied directly to the book, but are at the same time period. So it's you get a lot of exposure to things that aren't just in here, since there's no way to cover it all. Is it easy to implement? Yes, it is. It can be as open and go as you want it. If you want to do activities, then you need obviously to plan that. If you want to do the books, obviously you're gonna have to shop for the beginning of the year or pick them up from your library. I also will add in some videos to go with whatever we're learning that week. So that whatever you're going to do of those other things, that will obviously include. But if there's a week when I am just short on time, I just forget all those things and just do what is in here, and it's perfectly fine. I like the enrichment of all the other things, but I can't do it all. Do I use it now? Yes, I absolutely do. We have one more year, as I said, with volume 4, And then I don't know what we're gonna do. I will probably start the cycle over again with my boys. And then my daughter, I'm not sure what we will do. They have a high school version, but she definitely won't be ready for that the next school year. So I don't know, but I am starting to work my way through the adult version myself. So I will have a link, these things linked below, like I said. And I have also already completed a video that I think is posted yet. I'll check on how I do my planning for Story of the World. So I will link, I'll pop that up here if it's done. If not, I'll put it in when it is. Be watching for it if it's not. So you can see how I do the planning for it. And I also am going to make a video on how I use this, like what a week looks like. I'd add it here, but it's already going to be long enough. So I will pop that down below or up here. Maybe hit subscribe if you're interested so you don't miss it. It'll be coming up soon. So we are going to look into the book now. If you have any questions about this, be sure to leave them below and I will do my very best to answer them for you. I love it. I could gush over this for hours. I resisted purchasing this for a while for really no good reason, and I am so sad that I held off as long as I did, because it really is that good. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. Susan Wise Bauer, the author, is a Christian. She does present Bible stories in here, not many. So if you absolutely do not want any of that, those parts are really easy to skip, and it's only in this first one. She also, in this first one, includes some information about Roman and Greek mythical gods, because that is, influential in their history. So that's in there as well. But again, if you don't want that presented, that is easy to skip as well. Okay, so let's take a look inside Story of the World. This is the text for it. Each level, each volume has its own color. The table of contents, okay, it tells you the title of the chapter and then what the subsections are. There's a little introduction, and then it starts. So each chapter is usually divided into 2 sections. Sometimes there'll be just 1. Other times there'll be 3. But 2 is an average one. There are very few pictures. So, but as you can see, it's well laid out. All the pictures are in black and white. There is a map at the beginning of each chapter that shows you where it is. This one is volume 3, and there are 42 chapters in it, and that's about, I can't say that's exactly the same amount in each one, but somewhere around there. We average about 1 chapter a week. But there's really not much to see inside of here. It's pretty basic. The back does have an index, which I find very helpful and often don't find in homeschool curriculum. There's also a timeline in the back. Okay, so here is the book. If you are going to carry this around, I would highly suggest considering the electronic version. It is heavy. It's a size comparison. This is like the size of a normal paper, and then there's the smaller book. So, a table of contents, and then my favorite part is the pronunciation guide, and it goes on for a few pages. I had no idea how many things I wasn't able to pronounce until I started using this guide. So the pronunciation gets used a lot. And then here's the first chapter. If you supplement with the Usborne or Kingfisher encyclopedias, she lists the pages up here that go with it. Then they do the questions for the first section of the reading, and then the narration. When you get to volume 4, she doesn't do the narration anymore. So, because she starts introducing outlining in place of it. And the narration really segues nicely into using outlines. And then the questions for the second part, narration for it, and then one of my favorite parts is the reading that she lists. These are history readings is the first part, and then more literature suggestions, more storybooks for the younger kids, and then chapter books as they get older. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. Whoa. I hope that's not out of focus, I can't tell. She gives the title, publisher, and little summary of it, and then I'm not sure if you can see it, it'll say like RA and then like 1 through 3. So this is like a read aloud for grades 1 through 3, or an independent reading IR for grades 4 and 5. And I found that her grade suggestions are pretty on point. And then, like I said, the corresponding literature suggestions. And there are usually 5 or 10 of each type of those. So, really nice to have that. Then it moves into the map works. And then she has the projects. She does a really nice job of putting a variety of types. Math activities, craft activities, cooking activities, games, pretend play, that kind of thing. It'll list everything you need for them, directions. There are usually maybe 4 or 5 projects suggested for each one, so it's really nice to be able to have a variety and see which ones I'm actually willing to do and which ones I'm not. So I'm not gonna show all the page, each chapter is the same basic thing. This user guide is invaluable. I often hear people say that they don't really enjoy Story of the World, but that they're not using this activity guide. And I think that is where it fails for a lot of people. If you don't have this, this just adds so much to it. The activities are usually really good activities. A lot of times don't require all that much more work than compared to some activities when I'm doing homeschool things, looking at homeschool activity ideas, or just so much work on some of them. So now into the student pages part. For each year we've done this, have bought just the student pages in an electronic version so that I don't have to photocopy the pages. I can just print them out. So even if you have the paper copy, you might want to consider the electronic version for the student pages for ease of use, especially if you have more than one child. So nice big maps, and then there's one of the coloring pages. Nice black and white, so lots of white space, so it's easy to draw. There are usually 2 coloring pages, and here's one of the pages that you would use for one of the activities. So that's kind of what the student part looks like. My kids don't use the coloring pages a whole lot anymore. I have a couple Dover coloring books from the time period that we use, and that's about all they do. And they don't even use that very much. So the maps are really good. Any pages you need for any of the projects are in here. And then in the back are the review cards. We print these out on cardstock and then hang them up. It's just a little picture and then a real short narration of what happens. And once or twice a week we'll go through and review some of the ones. Helps to keep it in their head. So there is that. So that is my spotlight for this week, Story of the World. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them below. When you're finished watching this, I have a playlist that should be over there. I'll have a link below. If you are curriculum shopping, there are other curriculum on that playlist. And be sure to watch for my other videos on how we do the planning and how we use it.